戦争は変わった。一つの時代が終わり、俺たちの戦争は終わった。
War has changed. It's no longer about nations, ideologies, or ethnicity. It's an endless series of proxy battles fought by mercenaries and machines. War and its consumption of life has become a well-oiled machine. War has changed. Verified soldiers carry algorithmic arms, manipulate social influence, AI enhance and regulate their timelines. Memetic control, information control, emotion control, battlefield control. Everything is monitored and kept under control. War has changed. The age of deterrence has become the age of control, all in the name of averting catastrophe from weapons of mass destruction. And he who controls the battlefield controls history. War has changed. And when the battlefield is under total control, war becomes routine.
Think outside the cage.
The world is getting crazier. People are acting more and more insane. The end of the world is tomorrow. There's only one thing to do when the world is falling apart. Listen to Basil and Gonz as they discuss this week's news and events through the lens of Bible prophecy.
You are listening to Canary Cry News Talk.
You're listening to Canary Cry News Talk. It's not a podcast, it's a lifestyle, baby. And today is July 8th, 2026. We're live to tape on episode 956. And today, Catcher in the Sky. Signing on from off the grid, Razzle Dazzle. I'm your best buddy Basil, and you are not crazy.
And my name is Gonz, at Face Like the Sun, director of the Age of Deceit films and author of Prophecy Without Panic, Recovering the Patterns Behind Bible Prophecy, your favorite Asian provocateur for Christ, live to tape from the Metaverse to bring you the best news, which is the gospel message of Jesus Christ, while reporting the egregious with a well-rounded, biblically grounded take on world events. There's family, children all over the place here on a Wednesday.
It is Wednesday, my dudes. Wednesday.
It is the anniversary of the 1947 Roswell, New Mexico investigation of an alleged UFO crash.
Oh,
congratulations, everybody.
Congratulations. Okay, well, there we go. Big shout out to everybody who has their Canary Cry calendar. And if you don't have it, you can go join the Canary Cry Supply Drop at canarycrysupplydrop.com. And it'll be there by Christmas. Yes, fun. We've, of course, you have the kids with you often, and they're usually very good. And, mostly we only hear a little squeak here and there in the background. But today was the first time that I think I had actually heard your son speak full, fluent sentences.
Before
the show. And although it was a little bit of a temper tantrum, he did get involved in our process today of naming the episode, which that
was the daughter. That was it.
Was that the daughter? Oh, okay.
Yeah, they all kind of sound the same when they're little, but that's the thing.
So Catcher in the Sky, like PSYOPS today, very fun, very cool. People will get it here in a second. But are you willing to share what your daughter thought we should name the episode today?
What were you going to name the episode, Kaya?
Something about
it was like buy me a cheese squishy and something or something.
Something about a dumpling. Buy me a dumpling.
Yeah, buy me a dumpling squishy and buy me food.
That's pretty good. I'm not gonna lie. I think Catcher in the Sky is better, but buy me a cheese dumpling that's a close second. So thank you very much for that.
Yeah.
Okay. We're going to jump in. We have a little bit, I have a hard out today, which, we've got enough time, but I do have a hard out.
Okay.
But I'm stoked. I'm pumped today. I think there's some good things brewing. I do want to start. It's rare that we take an article or a news piece as the intro, but I do just want to throw this one out there as an intro. Somebody, and I apologize, I don't know who, because they texted it to the Canary Cry text message alert system. And because we don't collect any information or names or anything, I don't know who it was. But it was 312. Real quick, just a quick mention. 312 texts and says, apropos of the text group name, how about the Fellowship of the Ding? I think this is pretty good. Join the Fellowship of the Ding, because being on the text message alert system, specifically in its most sort of utilitarian form, is so that you can get a notification when we go live. And I must apologize because I did not send the text message out before the show. I panicked once I heard the intro music starting, and I sent the text a few seconds late. Sorry about that, text message people. But 312, I think, gets the credit. We're going to call it the Fellowship of the Ding until, something, whatever. I think it's great. I can't think of anything else better, but the, Holy Spirit's always got great ideas. And if you want to join the Fellowship of the Ding and get a notification directly from me when we go live, you don't want to rely on YouTube. Don't rely on Rumble. Big Tech does not like letting you know when we're going live. For whatever reasons. Their reasons are their own, and that's okay. But if you want to make sure that you always know when a show is starting, text the word Canary to 877-740-3226. Again, just text the word Canary to 877-740-3226, and you can join the Fellowship of the Ding and get a little notification when we go live. And of course, you can text us back at that number. We cannot carry on a text conversation with you because it's very expensive for us, but you can text wonderful moments of inspiration like 312 did, now naming the text message alert system the Fellowship of the Ding. Thank you very much. Awesome. Okay. Now, quick little article over here on MSN. This is mirrored from USA Today. And oh, yes. Somebody sent this to me, I think on Monday. Again, don't know who it is, but thank you for bringing it to my attention. I did not see it anywhere else floating around. But the headline is Nancy Pelosi's husband could face hit and run charge, authorities say. You might be thinking,
politics.
It's Latin for many.
Tick.
Now suck your blood.
Politics.
Your blood.
Some of you might be thinking, like I did, when you see this, you go, oh yeah, this is old. This happened years ago. No, this is another one. Paul Pelosi cannot stay out of trouble. And yet somehow he does stay out of trouble, even though these things happen. I don't know. Okay. USA Today says Nancy Pelosi's husband could face hit and run charge, authorities say. Paul Pelosi, the husband of former House Speaker Nancy Pelosi, may face a misdemeanor charge after allegedly fleeing the scene of a crash in Northern California that left a parked car with major damage, the Napa County Sheriff's office said. Pelosi, 86, is suspected of hitting a parked car on July 3rd in Yountville, about 50 miles north of San Francisco, before driving away. The Napa County Sheriff's Office said in a statement to multiple news outlets, the parked car was unoccupied and no one was injured in the incident, officials said. A witness called 911 and told authorities the driver hit a parked car and briefly stopped before leaving the scene. According to the sheriff's office, deputies later found Pelosi's brown convertible nearby with damage to the front right side, which was consistent with damage found on the parked car. Pelosi told deputies, okay, here we go. What did he have to say for himself? Pelosi told deputies he knew he hit something, but didn't know what it was. So he kept driving until the car So he kept driving until the car became disabled.
Oh my gosh.
He hit the car so hard that he was able to drive away, but then it became disabled. And he's like, yeah, I don't know. I thought I hit something, but the statement from law enforcement said Pelosi did not have alcohol in his system and he was not arrested at the scene. Okay, so we know he has a history of DUI, but very specifically, they're saying that he did not have alcohol in his system and was not arrested at the scene. The sheriff's office added, noting that such cases are commonly handled as misdemeanors. And then they add just a beautiful photo of Nancy Pelosi and Paul Pelosi. He's dressed up in a tux. She's looking very Nancy Pelosi. They've got beautiful smiles. Just a very flattering photo of the couple, to make a good impression. So, people don't take this news as some sort of sign that there's something suspicious about them. The sheriff's office said it recommended a misdemeanor charge of fleeing the scene of an accident involving property damage. The case was referred to the Napa County District Attorney's Office, which did not immediately respond to a request for comment. I'm sure that the Napa County District Attorney's Office is going to be upright and honorable in this criminal case. Authorities also referred the case to the Department of Motor Vehicles for an evaluation to determine whether Pelosi should be allowed to continue driving, a process, quote, common for elderly drivers, the sheriff's office said. It'll be interesting to see what kind of pull Nancy Pelosi has with the DMV to see if he can keep driving. In a statement to CBS News, the California Post, a spokesperson for the Pelosi family said, quote, Mr. Paul Pelosi has personally apologized to the owner of the vehicle and assured them that he would take responsibility for the damage to their vehicle. Speaker Pelosi will not be commenting further on this private matter. So don't ask, okay? So it seems perfectly harmless enough. But of course, we're all thinking it. We're all wondering. We all know that Paul Pelosi's has an interesting relationship with being in the news. So they are kind of forced to recognize what we might all be thinking. It says Paul Pelosi previously made headlines in 2022 after pleading guilty to misdemeanor DUI charges stemming from a Napa County crash. He was sentenced to probation, ordered to complete a drinking driver program, and pay fines and restitution. The same year, an intruder broke into Pelosi's home and attacked Paul Pelosi with a hammer, fracturing his skull. The attack drew national attention, prompted increased security concerns for elected officials and their families, and became a major political flashpoint. Pelosi later underwent surgery and recovered from his injuries. And we all remember that very strange incident where allegedly
he's in his underwear, the whole thing. The guy's in his underwear. It's just a weird situation.
Mr. David Depe, who is a very interesting fellow. They interviewed his roommate who said he was a MAGA supporter and worked at Pizza Hut or something. And yet in David Depepe's house, room, and lawn were lots of like Black Lives Matter supporting material, a flag. And so there was always this weird separation from like the facts and the narrative about this David Depe guy. But we kind of haven't heard anything since, right? At least I hadn't since this. That was just a weird thing. 2022, midst of COVID, lots of other things going on. It kind of went away. Of course, there's lots of theories about, was he actually an intruder? Why were they both in their underwear? Lots of weird stuff. Now, they end the article with this, and this popped out at me. Last sentence. The assailant, David Wayne Depe, was subsequently prosecuted and sentenced to life in prison. The guy got life in prison. If the narrative of the mainstream narrative is true, and he broke into the Pelosi household, for some reason took off his pants and hit Paul Pelosi with a hammer only after the police showed up. Remember, there was no hammering. There's no violence, allegedly. If I remember correctly, could be wrong. That's not the point. But he only hit Paul Pelosi over the head with a hammer after the police showed up and was questioned.
Weren't they handcuffed? I think they were handcuffed or something.
No, they were fighting over the hammer. like in
Okay,
a
okay.
weird way. Like
I'm looking at the footage now. It's the
Yeah, I
footage
see
is
that.
being,
Paul
yeah.
Pelosi was holding the hammer in his hand, while David Pepe was holding Pelosi's hand, trying to get the hammer from Paul Pelosi. Now, to correct myself, David Depe was not in his underwear. Paul Pelosi was in his
Paul
underwear.
Pelosi wasn't his.
Anyways, the whole thing was weird, right? And we kind of just forgot about it. But Depe has life in prison. Look, I'm not saying this guy should be roaming around. I'm glad this guy's locked up. I don't think he's fit to be in society. But life in prison for he didn't kill anybody, he didn't whatever. I mean, I don't know. It's just weird. So that's the first I heard about it. It popped up. I had it for last show, but it didn't really connect to anything. So I was just like, okay, interesting. But then here we are. Yes, you have any comments?
No, I was just going to say that the article that it's linked to about life in prison, it's dated October 2024. So this is news that is about 2 years old. It's
yeah.
I understand.
No,
it's
I'm not saying that we didn't know. I'm just saying, like, I don't know. It's in. You have to be like looking. You'd have to be looking for the information that he got, and maybe everybody knew that, but me. Okay, that was just news to me when I saw it. But okay, life in prison. Don't mess with the Pelosi.
The courts said, and this might be pertinent to what we're going to talk about next here, is that the Pepe was radicalized through his obsessive consumption of media amplifying extreme beliefs.
Aha.
So there might be a little
very
segue
good
for you.
note, Gons. Actually, such a good note. Will you say that again?
Oh, yes. It says, hold on. Let me go back to it here. Pepe's lawyers had argued for shorter sentences by saying his adult life was distorted by an abusive long-term relationship, according to court records. The lawyers also said he was, quote, radicalized through his obsessive consumption of media amplifying extreme beliefs.
Okay, radicalized online media extreme beliefs. Yep, that fits perfectly into what we're going to talk about now, Gons. And what I want to talk about now is PSYOPS, shall we?
It's just, again?
Again.
I think I was PSYOPed.
PSYOPS.
Okay, the PSYOPs never end. The PSYOPs of the PSYOPs of the PSYOPs, folks. And one of my personal favorite PSYOPs outlets is The Atlantic. Atlantic magazine, The Atlantic, owned and operated by Steve Jobs' widow. I've said it before, and it's relevant to say it again. I do not consider The Atlantic to be a news organization. I consider it to be a culture crafting project, a narrative, a worldview it's like a worldview maintenance outlet to make sure that all the good liberals or all the good mainstream people, know how they are supposed to think about things. And this can be.
I was just going to say heads up to, or not heads up, but hello to all the people watching from The Atlantic. I did post this stream right under one of their posts, and they weren't getting any engagement, so they're going to see that they got one reply, and that's us, baby. We're the only one replying to The Atlantic on X, sharing the Catcher in the Rye story.
Good. So, yeah. And I'll say it now in case I forget later. I was thinking this segment I'm about to do, I would love to do a nice little tweet about it and just see, because of course, I'm not very good at X like you are, Gons. And so whatever I say, my theories, my stuff, I kind of just say it on the show and then it's just gone forever. And I don't do anything to whatever, try to.
It's okay. It's all being documented. So, it's all being transcribed. It all survives somewhere.
If there's any producer out there who wants to take this segment, condense it into a nice little tweet, produce it for me, and send it over, I would love to X post it, and I'm happy to even give you credit. Just throwing it out there. Okay, so The Atlantic has this headline: The Wisdom of Holden Caulfield. Now, for those who are well read, you will know Holden Caulfield is the main character of a book called Catcher in the Rye. And those who are familiar enough with your conspiracy theory lore, Catcher in the Rye is a very interesting book with a lot of very interesting connections to big events in history. But The Atlantic is here to tell us that Catcher in the Rye, Holden Caulfield, is full of wisdom. Here's what they say. The Catcher in the Rye, J.D. Salinger's classic of adolescent alienation, turned 75 this summer. Though it has the cast iron reputation of a much older book, just as Moby Dick is canonically about whales, Catcher is canonically about phonies. It's narrated.
Yeah, I remember this because this is one of the books that I read in high school. I think my freshman or sophomore year. I was in AP English. Everybody, imagine that. Second
phonies.
English is a second generation, and I remember phonies. He was constantly talking about phonies.
Yeah.
And I was interested in reading the book because I knew that this was the book being held by the gunman
The
of
Connection,
John Lennon.
yes.
Yeah. Even at the time.
Canonically about phonies. And this is important, actually. You make a good point that the article does mention, but I'm not going to read the whole article, so I'll mention it here. Catcher in the Rye, Holden Caulfield, it was sort of famous because it's written from the perspective of a 17-year-old. And so it's sort of about being a teenager, albeit a weird teenager. And so it's famous for having been written in the prose of the slang at the time. So like if it was written today, it would be filled with like Gen Z, bussin', I can't think of other Gen Z. Think of all.
I don't think it's almost inappropriate to say some of those words. It made some of the inappropriate words mainstream.
So famously, Catcher in the Rye, written by an adult man at the time, is famous for like having well documented and well executed colloquial slang language of the teenagers at the time. So phonies was part of that. Its narrator, Holden Caulfield, is tormented, though I likely don't have to tell you this, by his awareness that society rewards and revolves around fakers. Over the decades of Catcher's fame, the novel has gained a reputation as the tale of a teenager who rejects nearly everything. It's a reasonable interpretation, given how often Salinger puts his hero's values in negative terms. Holden is against selling out, against Hollywood, against acting, against siding with hotshots, against favoring anyone for their style or wealth, against wealth generally, against elite institutions. Quote, I wouldn't go to one of those Ivy League colleges if I was dying, he announces, and against what he calls, quote, horsing around with girls. Deep down gave him a pain in the butt. Now, we hear this sort of retelling of Holden Caulfield, and kind of his whole thing is being a moody teenager, and so he's against all these things. But you can kind of see this, of course, in what we see today with Gen Z, even some Gen Alpha. Of course, every generation, this is part of being especially a teenage boy. But this could be like almost any Gen Z on X today, right? Against Hollywood, against acting, against favoring anyone for style or wealth, against elite institutions, against Ivy League stuff, and most notably, in this case, against horsing around with girls that deep down gave me a pain in the butt. And so if you didn't already have this impression about Holden Caulfield because you read the book, what to understand is Holden Caulfield is like the prototype, archetypal first version of an incel. He was the incel of the 1950s. Okay. And it's been known this way for a very long time. In the sort of feminist culture of recent times, even in sort of masculine culture of recent times. Feminists would say that's a bad book. It's even been banned from certain schools because it's such an example of an incel, of an unhealthy 17-year-old masculine guy. And then, of course, in what the Atlantic would call the manosphere today, the Joe Rogans, the Andrew Tates, this renewal of sort of classical masculinity, Holden Caulfield is an incel. Like, it's just this gross version of a teenage boy who, while, he's against a lot of things he should be against, he also has this kind of disdain for at least most women. And this plays out in several times in the book. Let's continue. But rereading Catcher recently. Okay. So this Atlantic author is rereading Catcher recently. Of course, they were probably given, because of Catcher in the Rye's 75th anniversary, and perhaps for other reasons we'll talk later, they were tasked with rereading Catcher. But rereading Catcher in the Rye recently, I was struck not by what Holden is against, but what he's for. Along with all of his rejections, Holden has a very clear set of ideas about what sorts of behaviors and activities and companions are correct. He doesn't always live up to his own standards, but he never changes them. He certainly doesn't give himself breaks. His monologue, the whole book is a monologue, is in fact a stream of statements about what's worthwhile, more than what's worthless. Holden's moral rigor is refreshing in a cultural moment marked by an unsettling mix of cynicism and heedlessness. Politicians and podcasters, it's talking about nowadays, politicians and podcasters model an ethos of resentment, dominance, and 15 minutes of fame for today's young men. Sometimes this recklessness manifests as a disinterest in consequences, even dire ones. Say the President of the United States declaring in the context of the war with Iran, quote, "I don't think about Americans' financial situation." On a shallower level, there's Clavicular, a streamer who has said that he may have sacrificed his fertility by taking testosterone in a quest to make himself handsome as possible, potentially killing your sperm in order to become a more attractive to women is a rebellion against conventional ideas of what male handsomeness is even for. Trump's style of governing is a rebellion against old norms regarding the presidency. Both aim to attract attention in the moment with little regard for what may come next. Holden yearns for the reverse. So in the past, while Holden Caulfield was regarded by everybody, feminist, masculine, doesn't matter. You read it, Holden Caulfield is this unhealthy incel type of man. The Atlantic writers making the case that compared to masculinity today, and I will agree, the Atlantic picks out two specifically inflammatory men when it comes to like how to think about masculinity. Trump, of course, Hitler. So that's going to resonate with the Atlantic writers. But then Clavicular, who's a guy we have not read about a whole lot, but he's a young streamer who's very inflammatory. He invented looks maxing, this sort of unhealthy thing that men, should look good at all costs. Their politics don't matter. Their honor doesn't matter. Nothing matters. All that matters in life is looking good. So admittedly, a not very good model of masculinity. However, the Atlantic writer here is specifically choosing these two things, right? He doesn't pick any, better model of classic masculinity, of which now there is a lot online, but picks specifically the worst two, maybe, in the eyes of an Atlantic writer. Not my opinion, but the opinion of the Atlantic, Trump and Clavicular. So already trying to make a case, but choosing the most radical forms of comparison. If you're trying to if you're trying to use public relations, if you're going to be Holden Caulfield's PR manager, much like Bill Gates spends $1 million a year on PR to try to make the world think he's a good guy. This is Holden Caulfield, really giving his PR manager the job of a lifetime. How do you make Holden Caulfield look like a healthy model of masculinity? Well, you compare him to the worst possible versions of that today.
Yeah. I mean, I'm stirring my memory of the book, and thinking back, it's a little bit more complex than even the way the Atlantic author. I think the author of this article
totally
is Lily something, because if
That's
I recall,
totally the point.
Holden Caulfield does have. It's not like he just hates all women in the story.
No.
Like, it's kind of the typical incel view, is that they're just sick of women. They totally hate women, and they don't want anything to do with them. That's not really the case. There are characters that are in the story, like his sister, I think, and there's like some nuns and stuff. There's women in the story where he's not necessarily like oogling over, but more just like shows some tenderness and some protectiveness. Especially
he's
his
very
sister.
protective of
the
women he feels are good models of femininity. Right.
So I can see,
right.
but
the article does kind of go into this, and actually what you're talking about, his protectiveness of his sister and the nuns, is what makes him a good model of masculinity. And I don't know, if we want to read the whole thing and we want the ins and outs and the subtleties of everything, I'm happy to do that. But the point is not for us a true analysis of Holden Caulfield, but the Atlantic's sort of repositioning of Catcher in the Rye for today.
The rebranding of Holden Caulfield, because he certainly wasn't a perfect model citizen either. He was sort of representing this rebellious anti-institution, anti-establishment type thing, which one could argue
is good. There's a lot of good
that's what I'm saying. It's not like I guess what the Atlantic is doing is trying to politicize that into like a feminist versus masculinity type of paradigm, but that's again, it's much more complex than that. But I can see how the Atlantic is trying to reframe it as like, no, it's a good male figure for their kind of worldview, like their liberal, lefty, progressive worldview. It would be like a I don't know, a model citizen for that.
Well, that's what they're saying. They're trying
for right now, not when Obama
now.
was in power, not when Democrats are in office, but if a Republican is in office, he's skeptical of institutions and presidents and stuff. That is, we want that, not when our guy's in there.
Again, to place it in the time that we're in now, the point isn't necessarily, because remember, the Atlantic has its own way it wants everybody to think about classic masculinity. They're talking about classic masculinity in what they would consider toxic masculinity. And they are against, they're the ones, I think, who wrote the article during COVID that says working out is Nazi. Like, if you work out as a man, that's white supremacist because the Nazis like to work out, right? So again, coming from the Atlantic's perspective of not only, because of course clavicular, Andrew Tate, there's a lot of really problematic models of masculinity, to use a triggering word, problematic. But the Atlantic would understand what I'm saying. There are a lot of bad examples of masculinity online.
You just put a big target on yourself as beta male just now.
Yeah, well, like Holden Caulfield. But the point is, it's much more subtle than the Atlantic is getting us. But let me get through this because the point comes next. A couple more things. Now they go into they even say here, if I'm letting my present influence my reading of Catcher too much, at least I'm in good company. In 2001, when the novel had its last big birthday, that would have been 50 years, the cultural critic Louis Menand wrote that its true subject is not alienation as the common interpretation of the book. And that's a key. Alienation, of course, being a key feature of incels, right? They are alienated and lots of other things. But grief. Salinger began writing about Holden before serving in World War II. This is important. Keep this in mind. During which he saw life-altering amounts of combat and death. Manan suggests that the author's army experience emerges as Holden's feelings of isolation from society. It's an intriguing argument, and also one made weeks after 9/11. In Manan's description of Salinger's novel as a, quote, book about loss and a world gone wrong, is a sense of newer mourning and a fear that the world might be about to go violently wrong. So, there's a lot of this kind of feeling today, and has been for a while. 25 years later, a different facet of American life feels like it has gone wrong. A current of demanding voices has emerged online, urging teenage boys and young men to embody an almost unattainable form of masculinity. In some cases, this means physical strength or clavicular type perfection. I'm sure Clavicular would actually love to read the words clavicular type perfection. I'm sure that's exactly what he'd love. In others, it means callous or even violent disrespect for women, which may comfort a teenager who feels romantically rejected, but won't get him anywhere near whatever dreams he might have of first love. Is it any wonder? So now Atlantic is referring to all sorts of cultural masculine stuff going on, but referring specifically to incels. Is it any wonder then that I was moved by Holden's feeling that, quote, if you don't really like a girl, you shouldn't horse around with her at all? For the record, Holden isn't great at following that rule. He breaks it the night he makes it. In fact, by, quote, necking with a terrible phony. Readers aren't meant to hold that slip against him. I didn't. He is, after all, a teenage boy. And they go into a much longer analysis of each of these little moments in the book. And what they're really doing is making a case that Holden Caulfield is not to be seen, in the sort of incel. He's not to be seen for his faults, of which in the book there are many, but he should be seen as a model type of healthy masculinity versus what the Atlantic calls, masculine culture today. And like you said, it's subtle. We could dig through that all you want, but it's not the point. Let me skip down to, it's the second half of that ideal. Let me skip that part. It's not important. Man as protector is a common trope. Man as striver for innocence, less so. But to Holden, reaching for innocence means deciding over and over to hurt no one, to be hopeful, to believe against all the evidence of his life that he doesn't have to sell out or become faker to grow up. Right now, the prevailing vision of manhood involves an amount of swagger that is frequently a performance and not necessarily one designed to comfort or even acknowledge boys who are afraid. Catcher does. It's a novel for those who feel lost and frightened, and if I were a 17-year-old boy, I'd be relieved to read it. I imagine I'd know just as much as I do at 34 that Holden is not a real teenager, but I'd be glad to follow him into the rye field anyways. So the point of this article is to say, hey, if you're a lonely teenager, if you're an incel, if you're a boy who feels lost and frightened, read Catcher in the Rye, because you will see yourself, you will feel comforted, you will have a model for the masculinity that maybe you're not getting elsewhere. Now, keep in mind, this article is written by a woman. This is written by Lily Meyer. But so this is kind of a liberal Atlantic woman's analysis that Holden Caulfield, the prototype formerly, not to say he's all bad, he's not an archetypal evil bad masculine figure, but before this he was more referred to in culture forever as a sort of troubled teenage version of masculinity. Not that he's like an archetype of incel, but he represents The journey of incels, he is incomplete. The whole point of the book
Right.
is
Yeah.
that he's in incel time in his life, whereas Lily kind of is building him up to be an archetype of good masculinity, not
Right.
of masculinity in process.
Right. So yeah. So not a fully. So Lily is highlighting and praising the immaturity
Mhm.
as this like ideal masculinity
As a
when
final product of
as a
what
final
good masculinity
product,
can be.
you almost highlighting the what's the phrase I'm looking for, the suspended or what
Failure
am I
to
trying to think?
launch the
Yeah, I mean, there's a
the
phrase for it. I think there was a
maturity.
TV show named after. Of course, I unmute and there's my children are screaming.
Yeah, that's okay. Yeah, the TV show. What is it called? It's got Jason Bateman,
Yeah, right.
Buster, Lucille the Seal. Oh my gosh, this is gonna drive me nuts. Arrested Development.
Arrested Development.
Arrested
Thank you. Yes, like highlighting that is the fully formed man, not this much more mature kind of
Right.
actual mature man as sort of an ideal for what a
Exactly.
man should be. Right. So I see what she's doing here. She'd
That's what
rather
she's doing.
have her
She'd
form of
rather
masculinity
young
is a
men
lost
use
teenage boy.
Holden Caulfield as the model of healthy masculinity, as an archetype, rather than an example of a young boy moving through the processes that that eventually get to a good masculinity.
Right.
Now,
right.
of
Okay.
course, I see the chat. People are already, a lot of you already know about Catcher in the Rye. But keep all of this in mind. The Atlantic just coming out saying, hey, for almost no reason at all, dear Gen Zers, dear young men, use Holden Caulfield as the model of your masculinity. The world needs more Holden Caulfields. And Catcher in the Rye, interestingly enough, has gone through a lot of phases. It's even gone through phases of being banned from school libraries because of how bad of an example Holden Caulfield is as a model for masculinity. Interestingly enough, it is the liberals, it is the Democrats, it is the recent famous book burners and book banners, as much as they'd like to convince everybody that they are not that. They are the ones who banned Catcher in the Rye all over the country in school things. So it's ironic that the Atlantic liberal outlet is changing its mind, or perhaps telling its readers how to now consider Catcher in the Rye, which is ironic for so many reasons, but it's also very obvious because the left, what we think of as left politics and left social theory in America is famously unmoored from principle, right? Where on the right, for better or for worse, they stick to principles no matter what, even if it's, complicated. They'll say, we have principles. This is why they're called conservatives, is because they are conserving the principles that already exist. Whereas liberals, the critique of liberalism in America today is that their principles are not permanent. Whether it's today or tomorrow or last week or tomorrow or whatever, wokeness has been defined as adherence to liberal orthodoxy. And the irony is that liberal orthodoxy changes basically day by day to suit the situation, to suit the desires of the party. That's why one day, men are bad. The next day, men are good, but in a different way. Race, it's okay to treat one race this way. You can be mean to white people, but you can't be mean to black people. And then, so traditionally unmoored is like the characteristic of leftist principles. So it's no surprise that now the Atlantic is communicating, hey, we're flipping a Yui on this one, everybody. We're flipping a Yui. Holden Caulfield is the good guy. We should hold him up as masculinity. Now, they mention J.D. Salinger's time in the Army. Now, they mention how he started Catcher in the Rye before he was in the Army, finished it after. You know, to not bury the lead, for those who know, the interesting thing about Catcher in the Rye is that it is directly, explicitly connected to multiple famous assassinations and assassination attempts. Just to name a couple, of course, there was, what's this guy's name? Mark David Chapman, who was John Lennon's killer. There was Lee Harvey Oswald, was connected to Catcher in the Rye. There was, let's see here, what's their name? Anyways, this shows up a few times. We'll go deeper in a moment. But noted in this Atlantic article is J.D. Salinger's time in the military. Now, this is really hard to find sources on that we on this show would normally try to find, right? Because analyzing the mainstream media's presentation of facts and history is kind of the thing we do. But because of this weird connection of J.D. Salinger, you kind of got to go other places. So I took this from rare.us, and they have a section of this article that says, what ties J.D. Salinger to any of this? Says, since many believe the novel to be autobiographical, it can be seen as the author is talking about his experience in the Army, which is where they say he started the book. J.D. Salinger. Okay, so this outlet is saying he started the book in the Army. The Atlantic is saying he started before. J.D. Salinger spent a year in the U.S. Army in 1942. It consisted of 2 phases. Initially, his job was to interrogate captured Nazis with the CIC, Counterintelligence Corps, an intelligence sector responsible for, quote, providing security for military installations and staging areas, located enemy agents, and acted to counter stay-behind networks. So sort of a spy hunter kind of thing. They also provided training to combat units in security, censorship, the seizure of documents, and the dangers of booby traps. Towards the end of his year, the CIC joined Operation Paperclip. This was a tight-lipped, so his job in the Army was to find Nazis, to hunt Nazi spies, to interrogate them. So he would have an intimate knowledge of the Nazis who are out there, right? And how their networks, where their little cells are located, etc. And so it makes sense J.D. Salinger would be in the CIC as it joined Operation Paperclip. This was a tight-lipped operation that involved the U.S. recruiting over 1,600 Nazi scientists, engineers, and technicians to help us win the race with the Soviet Union to win the space race since the Cold War was looming. Some of these Nazis probably worked in concentration camps and conducted experiments there. Now, remember, last week, we just had the congressional hearing on MKUltra. And during this congressional hearing, it was stated and repeated that MKUltra went deeper than originally thought, and that it included and perhaps even stemmed from Nazi scientists brought over from Operation Paperclip. Says years later, Project Paperclip would give way to other, more, let's call them morally sticky projects. And though Salinger was not in the Army when the later projects were in operation, many of them were in their infancy when he was around. And being an extension of an intelligence agency, surely he had some insight and clearance. It is true that the man was known for being a hermit after he left the Army. So we really don't know what he was up to or with whom he was conversing, Army buddies perhaps. And as we know, and is quite clear, and is a big part of the way we have to see the world today, it's a classic trope that, hey, once you're in CIA, once you're in intelligence, It doesn't matter if you leave. It doesn't matter if you transfer to the public sector. It doesn't matter if you retire. You're never actually out of intelligence. And this is clear because even when both politicians, but also spies, CIA operatives, when they retire, they don't lose their clearance. You keep your clearance, which is a big thing we've seen with Trump in recent years, is they're all mad at him because he's been revoking clearance from intelligence agents who no longer work for the government, no longer work in intelligence, which makes sense, is common sense to a normie. Like, yeah, if you're retired or you don't work at CIA anymore, why would you still have clearance? Why would you still have access to all these secrets? And the point is, they do that because once you're in intelligence, you're always in intelligence, unless you're burned or blacklisted or something like that. You're never actually out. So J.D. Salinger, being an intimate part of the early stages of Operation Paperclip, and of course, as we know now publicly, Operation Paperclip being the stemming, the source of MKUltra, which just was released last week. Perhaps that has something to do with The Atlantic writing this article today. But just a couple details. The projects that came about post-Operation Paperclip were the following. Project Chatter, a U.S. Navy program where they lab tested drugs on both animals and humans in interrogations and recruitments of agents. Project MKUltra. Project MKUltra, also called the CIA Mind Control Program, is the code name given to a program of experiments on human subjects that were designed and undertaken by the United States Central Intelligence Agency and which were, at times, illegal. Experiments on humans were intended to identify and develop drugs and procedures to be used in interrogations in order to weaken the individual, force confessions through mind control. Project Bluebird, an extension of Project MKUltra, focusing on hypnosis and behavior modification as a means of preventing agency employees from providing intelligence to adversaries. Project Artichoke. The primary goal of Project Artichoke was to determine whether a person could be involuntarily made to perform an act of attempted assassination. Which brings us to the assassinations. Mark David Chapman will forever be known as the man who got an autograph from Beatles founding member John Lennon hours before he shot and killed him in front of his New York home. Chapman had the book, Catcher in the Rye, on him that night. He was reading it with fervor when the police came to arrest him. Apparently, Chapman identified with the book so much that he wanted to change his name to the main character's name, Holden Caulfield. And inside the book, he scrawled his own inscriptions the way an author does when they dedicate it to someone. It said simply, quote, "This is my statement." Upon police arrival at the scene of the shooting and arresting him for shooting Lennon, he reportedly told the police, quote, "I'm sure the big part of me is Holden Caulfield, who is the main person in the book. The small part of me must be the devil." But anyone who knew, wow, even a reference there to split personalities. You know, of course, split personality is a big part of MKUltra. And even if this quote is true, again, this is rare.us. I'm sure they did their studies, but anyways, just a caveat there. But even by the admission of Mark David Chapman, killer of John Lennon, he says, "I'm sure the big part of me is Holden Caulfield, who's the main person in the book. The small part of me must be the devil." So he's not even identifying with his own name or identity, but he's identifying as a split personality, Holden Caulfield and the devil. And this paragraph finishes, "But anyone who knew Chapman personally prior to the murder didn't believe he would do something of the sort." Isn't that interesting? Don't we hear that a lot with all sorts of weird assassination attempts, shootings, these types of things? Today, you always hear, "Oh, the guy didn't seem to have it in him." That was kind of the case with the Butler shooting. Tyler Robinson. Tyler Robinson was Charlie Kirk, but that was said about him. He would never do this. I forget the guy's name from Butler, but that was a big thing about him. It goes on here. Another copy of the book was found in the hotel room of Ronald Reagan's almost assassin, a lonely mid-20 John Hinckley Jr., who is said to be obsessed with the book and John Lennon. Now I see Gons is gone, so I'm going to switch over our thing here. A lonely mid-20 John Hinckley Jr., who is said to be obsessed with the book and John Lennon. This is not John Lennon's killer. This is the attempted assassin of Ronald Reagan, was both obsessed with the book and John Lennon. He believed that without Lennon, the world was over. Some say he wanted to commit suicide by being killed by the Secret Service and earn notoriety in the process by taxi driver access Jodie Foster. Actress Rebecca Schaefer was shot by Robert John Bardo at her apartment home in Los Angeles in 1989. Bardo was a former straight-A student turned dropout who was obsessed with the actress and had been stalking her for about 3 years. When he visited her apartment complex and she turned him down, he returned the same day. He knocked on her door and shot her when she answered. The Catcher in the Rye was in his possession when he killed her, but he tossed the book onto the roof of another building a few blocks away. So you have multiple. There's also another one, Lee Harvey Oswald, the infamous Lee Harvey Oswald, the man charged with JFK's murder, also had connections to his book. In a raid of his Dallas apartment following the assassination, Catcher in the Rye, along with books like George Orwell's Animal Farm and Adolf Hitler's Mein Kampf were found. He also sounds familiar, doesn't it? He also spent much of his teens studying socialism in his free time. A psychological assessment conducted from a short stint he spent in a juvenile reformatory due to his consistent truancy from school revealed his tendency for a vivid fantasy life, turning around the topics of omnipotence and power, through which Oswald tries to compensate for his present shortcomings and frustration. Dr. Hartogs detected a personality pattern disturbance with schizoid features and passive-aggressive tendencies. By Dr. Hartogs, these days, people who get stuck in fantasy worlds are often sucked into television and social media. There are just a few of the assassinations that would have been linked to Catcher in the Rye. And then it goes on. So Lee Harvey Oswald, who had already been like diagnosed with schizoid features, again, perhaps these split personalities. You had the killer of Rebecca Schaefer, who had the book with him. And again, on the topic of Holden Caulfield's masculinity, that's like a direct influence from the book. He was turned down by a girl, and Holden Caulfield's sort of incel nature came out in Robert coming back and killing her. Of course, Ronald Reagan's almost assassin, obsessed with the book. Let's see here. And Mark David Chapman, Lennon's guy. So you have, no wonder, before this Atlantic article, no wonder Holden Caulfield in the book was considered dangerous. And not just because it has, whatever, unliberal morals or something like that, but like literally because this book had been directly involved with multiple assassinations and assassination attempts. Just so happens that the writer of the book, J.D. Salinger, was involved in the CIC, the project that had inevitably turned into Project Paperclip and brought over the Nazi scientist, who, as we know now on the congressional record, was involved with MKUltra. It's pretty interesting, the timing of the Atlantic here, choosing now, the week after the MKUltra hearings, to come and decide, hey, you know what? Actually, we here at the Liberal Atlantic want to change our minds. Actually, Holden Caulfield is just the model of masculinity that we want to encourage young men, and especially lonely young men, and especially incel, lonely young men of today. We don't want them being influenced by, people saying classic masculinity and, getting things done and taking responsibility, cleaning your room, this kind of thing shouldn't be the model of masculinity. Of course, they don't put it that way. They work from the liberal sort of structure of what online masculinity is. And so they're encouraging an entire generation of Gen Z and Gen Alpha men who right now, famously, we have been watching, Gen Z men especially, wake up, say something is wrong. I especially need to find God. And they are becoming Christian. They're becoming Orthodox. They are, again, like Holden, resentful of the modern stereotypes or the modern trend of, women their age getting OnlyFans, women their age having high body counts, women their age, all the men, as noted by mainstream studies, Pew Research, not just Basil telling you this, but as noted by the mainstream, Gen Z men want to get married. They want to have families. They want stability. They want to have traditional values, and they want women who have traditional values. At the same time, young women these days are going totally the opposite way, becoming hyper liberal and standing for everything that stands for. And the Atlantic doesn't like this. They don't want young men going and becoming Christian and having traditional values. In fact, they want to encourage the entire generation of young men to take Holden Caulfield as their model of masculinity. The character who inspired multiple assassinations and assassination attempts. That's who the Atlantic wants to encourage a generation of young men to go after, to model themselves after. The book written by the guy during his time in counterintelligence while J.D. Salinger was busy interrogating Nazis and participating in the early stages of Project Paperclip. He would have been the guy responsible for identifying the Nazi scientists to bring over. He would have identified the exact Nazi scientists who would be brought over to start MKUltra. He disappears after he gets out. He goes and he lives in a cabin. Does that sound familiar? Ted Kaczynski? Anybody? Whatever. Once you're in intelligence, you're never out of it. He goes after being involved in early MKUltra. He goes to a cabin and he finishes writing the book that just so happens to have effects on young men that mirror the things that MKUltra, Project Artichoke, Project Bluebird, all this sketchy stuff just happens to be that Catcher in the Rye seems to be, at least on accident, but probably not, an effective activator or trigger or something that when specifically young men who are at risk, right? Because with all of this, all these shootings, all these bad things, they are always lonely. They are always isolated. They are always alienated. They're always on SSRIs, coincidentally enough. But these same types of men through history, when they come in contact with Catcher in the Rye, they get activated, they go into business, they do bad things. And the Atlantic here is directly encouraging this whole new generation of young men to basically program and trigger themselves, if I may jump the gun and just say it, encouraging this generation to trigger themselves, get the tried and true, old reliable Catcher in the Rye, Holden Caulfield, ideology to carry the whole thing forward. And all of this just the week after MKUltra was officially exposed during Congress and put into the congressional record. And remember, we made the note when the MKUltra hearings came out, that was the same day that the operation that was the PSYOP, that was the two fake activists climbing the Empire State Building, proposing to one another, while news helicopters hovered around them. They were praised, they were exalted, they were, the whole operation was done the same day to distract from the MKUltra news coming out. And the Atlantic is taking advantage of that. I mean, what do you think, Gons? Am I crazy? Do you think I'm onto something?
I think you're identifying too much with Holden Caulfield. I think we need to get you checked out. No, I mean, obviously it's pretty clear. It seems to
It's
be
so
that this is-
blatant. It's
yeah,
amazing
it's pretty-
how blatant it is.
Yeah. The history of JD Salinger, I mean, I think people have kind of known about this, but yeah, as the MKUltra hearings happen, it's interesting the timing of the Atlantic coming out and saying this and reframing it. It's almost like the legacy mind control institution is like, well, we better rebrand because we're losing, a cohort of people are gonna kind of know what's up, so we better reframe it for the people we can keep. But yeah, also I think, in so many ways, you think about all the mass shooters that we've had in this country and some of the profile that we've seen of those people, and reading Catcher in the Rye is almost like reading the mental state of all those people, and they're all young. Usually they're in their late teens, early 20s. They're confused, they're highly socialized,
They're alienated,
like all the different things that fit the profile or the avatar or the archetype of Holden Caulfield. One thing I do want to note, though, that I found interesting is that JD Salinger, so his name, it's Jerome David Salinger. And of course, Jerome comes from the Greek Hieronymus, I think is how you say it. And it means sacred name or holy name, right? That's not a surprise. David, of course, Hebrew David, meaning beloved. And then Salinger, so from a German Jewish surname, but it can be related to Solomon. So his name could literally be holy named, beloved Solomon. It's like the key guy who like unleashed a generation of mind control, operations upon the unsuspecting masses. So I just thought that was interesting.
No, it's incredible. And speaking of the programming, right? It doesn't just stop with young men reading Catcher in the Rye and MKUltra and that sort of thing. But is mentioned here by Monica in the chat, says the movie Conspiracy Theory with Mel Gibson has the main character obsessed with Catcher in the Rye, and Catcher in the Rye characters being interested in Catcher in the Rye and sometimes explicitly talking about Catcher in the Rye in the movies, talk about predictive programming. There are many of them. One notable one is The Shining, Stanley Kubrick. Catcher in the Rye is featured there. 6 Degrees of Separation, which I don't know much about, but talks about phonies and talking about how the book is a manifesto of hate against phonies. A movie called The Good Girl. Let's see. Thomas Werther calls himself Holden and is explicitly seen reading the novel. Conspiracy Theory, 1997. Mel Gibson's paranoid character is completely compulsively programmed via mind control to buy a copy of Catcher in the Rye.
Yeah, it's I think there's videos on YouTube and stuff on that. Yeah, it's
Hitman,
all throughout. Yeah.
Hitman 2023. One of the antagonists is shown reading Catcher in the Rye, and it goes on. Annie Hall, hello. So Catcher in the Rye has a long history of being explicitly connected to this whole thing. And now the Atlantic comes out and says, no, young men, all you lonely young men, go read Catcher in the Rye. That's how you should really be a man.
And what's fascinating is that I saw Wheezy in there talking about the trauma-based mind control. The trauma aspect of this is huge. Obviously, J.D. Salinger and what he might have experienced during World War II causing trauma. And, we are a generation of trauma-based, mind-controlled society. It's kind of crazy to think that 9/11 the two towers going down, it's going to be 25 years this year, which is wild. That is wild to me. It makes me feel very old. But that's a whole generation that they didn't even experience it, but they were born into a culture seeped by people my age of that trauma, because that day is still very vivid to me. That whole experience is very vivid. Obviously, it shaped a whole generation. So, as sort of
the Atlantic talks about how right after 9/11 was Catcher in the Rye's 50th anniversary. And so they were encouraging people to get into Catcher in the Rye after that trauma trigger of 9/11.
Yeah. There's a movie that I loved growing up. It was called Dead Poet Society. Did you ever see that, Basil, with Robin Williams? That has a similar vibe to it, kind of a coming of age. A lot of movies did that. In hindsight, if you talk about predictive programming, brings up the trauma, and then it sort of teaches you how to deal with it, or how to. And there's a common theme with all of it too. In these movies, these books, no mention of God. Where's God in any of this? There's no.
And it's especially in Catcher in the Rye, he's specifically critical of religion and Christianity.
He has a couple nuns. He sort of is nice to, but other than that, it's not like super explicit, but very.
If I remember correctly, I think he talks about like preachers as phony. I could be wrong.
No, I think he does. He does talk about I think it's more like a Catholic type of thing going on there. But in general, there's nothing positive about God or Jesus or anything like that. So that should be a little bit of a clue too, as to sort of how to control society with this trauma-based mind control. You talk about Christ and what he did. He took the trauma for all of us, and he suffered on our behalf. And those types of messages, really kind of frees you from your own trauma and pain. Not entirely, of course, but it's as you soak in that theology, that sound theology, it kind of brings into perspective your own sort of traumas and how it has shaped your life and your personality and all these different things. And you have a point of reference for healing, but that's not what Catcher in the Rye and the Nazi mind control MKUltra program. They're not interested in healing anybody. They're interested in control, and that comes from a very dark spiritual place, a spiritual vacuum. And it's very telling that it is the Antichrist spirit, because if it was really about healing you and making you whole and all this kind of stuff, they would provide a much more transcendent solution. But instead, it's just more like, it's like the predator who's trying to lure a child with candy. It's like, look, I understand your desire and for candy. You like sweet things. Here's your candy, but it's leading you astray. And man, I mean, talk about an entire generation that's seeped in that. And way to go, Atlantic, to to try to salvage what is left of that generation of mind control legacy. So good job, Atlantic. It's going to work for a certain segment of the population, the Lily Meyer types, I guess.
That's the scary part. And just to confirm what you said, we've said it before in so many other contexts. It's Christ is the antidote, the vaccine against like this programming, right? Because to truly walk with Christ sort of gives you an immunity to these schemes, and these you can see right through the tricks here like this throughout culture. Nuts! I had one last thing to say. What was it? I was going to say on a I don't know, a kind of scarier note. You got to wonder, we must think to ourselves, wow, what an obvious operation here with obvious goals, sinister goals. And of course, that goal is to program and trigger more boys into doing something. And so, I almost hate to put it out there, but it's just the implicit possible result. we have to wonder, how long does it take a young man to read Catcher in the Rye? And how long after that would it take for them to act on something? And that's, we can kind of keep an eye out for some sort of bad action by some boy who gets triggered and activated by this. Here's this next
We
couple
should
months
just,
or something, right
someone
during the
should do.
midterms. And it is midterms, and what's kind of missing from the midterms cycle is a nice, effective
False flag type of
false
event.
flag, so that the Democrats can then again start campaigning on gun control,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, that's true.
It's interesting. We haven't seen it yet. There hasn't been a big push for gun control, and gun control is one of the most beloved campaign topics for Democrats. And politically, they benefit from some horrible shooting, because then they can rile everybody up about guns, and people go vote based on that emotion and that recent trauma. So
I kind of looked it up here, and yeah, so there's Holden Caulfield does. He referenced, there's a chapter in the book where he talks about Jesus, and he talks about how he likes Jesus, but he separated Jesus from organized religion, and kind of he really disliked the disciples, and he calls himself sort of an atheist and has trouble with conventional prayer and argues with people. But I find that interesting, because who has said almost the exact same thing? I like Jesus's teachings. It's Mr. Elon Musk.
Right.
Elon Musk is that guy.
Well,
So,
and it's pushed towards Christian humanism, right?
yeah,
Like
yeah.
we've been seeing in Silicon Valley and elsewhere. Everybody's seeing young men become traditional Christian, and they go, "Oh gosh, okay, we need to step in here. Look, Christian humanism is good, but what does Christian humanism lack? It lacks the gospel." It
Yeah.
says, hey, we can take the ideas of Jesus. We don't need the gospel. We don't need all that supernatural stuff. Okay, if you're interested in Christianity, we'll let you be a Christian humanist, but don't bother yourself with, the real Jesus and the gospel and the death and resurrection. You don't need that.
They should do an experiment and have chickens, like play the Catcher in the Rye on loop for some male chickens, and then just see how they behave, and a few weeks and months later.
Male
Just to find out.
chickens?
Yeah.
Okay. I do have a rooster who right now is an incel, and it's not his fault. It's because I have him separated from the hens. So he is
there you
technically
go.
a rooster. And maybe I need to speed up the process of integrating him.
Did you name him Holden?
No, but I might now.
Because you're holding him back?
Yeah, exactly. All right, Guns. With that, let's take just a very quick second to thank some producers. We are on the value for value model, everybody. You know this, we know this, but if you don't know this, you'll notice we don't have any advertisements. We don't take any partnerships with corporations. We don't take a cent, a penny from YouTube or Rumble. None of that. We're entirely supported by the value for value model, which is indeed reliant on you, dear listener. If you get any value from the show, if you got any value on this episode or past episodes, you plan on getting a value in the future, just remember, we are entirely dependent on God, and with that, included in that, is God's people's obedience to God in participating in his work here on earth. I was reading, I think it was Corinthians. I texted you, Gons. I was reading 1 Corinthians, and 1 Corinthians is Paul, of course, writing to the Corinthians. And it's interesting. You kind of get an idea of his relationship with the Corinthians. And he basically spends a couple of chapters trying to explain to the Corinthian church, hey, God, this whole thing we're doing, all these churches we're trying to connect, it only works if everybody's participating and keeping God's work going. I was very encouraged to see that Paul, had to endure the complications of the value for value model. But of course, look, you can support you must support the show. Somebody must support the show. And you can do that with your time, your talent, or your treasure. Okay. Whatever it is that you have, whatever it is God's blessed you with, you can use that to support the show, keep us alive, and support your fellow Canarians and the whole community. If you want to learn more, of course, you can just go to canarycry.support.
Yeah, do it.
Right. We got people who help us out with their time. They volunteer for projects. They use their skills to help us build things like websites or whatever. We have artists or musicians who create art, create music, and they go to canarycry.art and they upload it there. We love to feature it on the show and use it for all sorts of things. And of course, for people who can support the show financially in whatever amount. Again, it's like the woman at the temple. It's like the widow at the temple. Okay. It's not about the amount. It's just about participating based on where God has you. Just let Jesus guide you. If it's $1, that's great. If it's something else, that's even better. But that's what it's about, okay? It's about participating. It's one thing to listen. It's one thing to passively be involved. It's another great thing to fellowship, be part of the community. But it's another thing entirely to participate and bring value to what God's doing. If indeed you believe that what's going on here is God's work on earth, that's up to you to decide, or for the Holy Spirit to convict. Okay. But big shout out to all of our monthly producers who come in, sign up, support the show on a monthly basis. Can't do it without you. But the executive producers, those are people who come in, support the show for $100 or more for any individual episode like this, which, goodness gracious, sometimes the execs are the only thing keeping us alive. But today we have one executive producer, and I bet you can guess it's executive producer Sir LX Protocol V2, Baron of the Brian Protocol.
Thank you, Sir Alex Protocol. Man, where would we be without this dude?
I know. He comes in, of course, for $100.33.
Illuminatus!
He is on a 502 episode streak altogether and a 156 episode streak executive producing.
Wow.
Thank you very much. And that's it. That's it for execs today. Okay. Thank you very much. We don't know what we'd do without you, Sir Alex Protocol. We had a short list of people come in and support the show under the executive producer amount. And remember, when you produce, if you come in for $7.77 or more, you're entitled to have a note read on the show. And so I'd like to thank our first producer. Actually came in at the end of last episode. I gave them a quick shout out, but I want to credit them for this episode. And that is producer Tiffany W.
Tiffany W. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Tiffany W. comes in for $77.77.
Ooh, wow.
Mm-hmm.
Incredible. That's good.
Thank you.
It's almost perfection. Thank you.
Almost, yeah. Next up, we have, of course, producer Rebecca T.
Thank you, Rebecca T.
Rebecca T. comes in for $15.51.
I like it.
Yep.
The pillars.
Fun. And interesting. Oh, yes, the pillars. She's on a 39 episode streak.
39.
Yeah, she's on a streak.
Yeah, she is.
Mm-hmm. And that's it for producers over $7.77.
Wow.
Except for, of course, Cage Rattler Coffee.
Coffee in the wings. Yes.
Cage Rattler Coffee. Where value for value never tasted so good.
Cons, I am impelled by a listener in the chat. Says
compelled?
I'm impelled and compelled. Says holding him back was funnier than Basil gave you credit for, Gon. So I just want to stop and honor you for the holding him back joke about my rooster, my Holden Caulfield rooster. All right, go to CageRattlerCoffee.com and just get the best possible coffee you can. You're done. You're done. Okay, I'm telling you, I'm putting the stake in the ground. You are done being held hostage by the big coffee companies who sell you bad, burnt, moldy coffee. Look it up. If you don't know what I'm talking about with the moldy coffee thing, look it up. And when you do, go to cagerattlercoffee.com, because look, they support the show value for value. Producers of this show said, you know what? I want to provide a service to the rest of the Canarium. They source the beans from all over the world, from various countries, single origin, GMO-free, non-Nephilim, organic coffee beans. They are roasted in teeny tiny small batches with love and glory, and made available to you, dear listener. And competitive pricing, too. I get it. I get it. Maybe some people have to rely on the Costco, 15-pound bag of coffee to make it through the week. I get it. But they do a wonderful job at Cage Rattler Coffee to keep the prices competitive. You can sign up for the Coffee of the Month Club. If you don't know which one to get, you can order the sampler pack. Get your Nephilim Hunter Dark Roast, your Emu Wrangler Medium Roast. It's all wonderful. We have it all the time, and you will too. And you will send me a message, perhaps to the text message alert system, the Fellowship of the Ding, to tell me again and again how grateful you are for Cage Rattler Coffee. So go get it.
Yep. Go do it.
Okay.
Delicious.
Now, because it's Wednesday Gons, I'm going to thank a couple of producers who came in under the $7.77 mark. When you come in under that amount, we save you for Wednesday. Usually it's people keeping streaks going, but I want to thank them real quick. We did have dear Sir Darren, Knight of the Hungry Panda, come in under the
Hey, thank you, Sir Darren.
He did come in for $5.99 and has a message that says gas fees. So he might be talking about gasoline, or maybe
1 gallon.
The crypto thing. I don't know. Yeah, maybe that's the price of gas.
Yeah, well, around here, that'll maybe get me a gallon, depending on which.
Close to a gallon.
Yeah.
But he might be talking about gas fees for maybe a crypto producership. I don't know. We'll find out. Producer
Ethereum?
Monica K is keeping her streak going. She's on a 10-episode streak.
Thank you, Monica K. That is a great streak.
And Dame Tinfoil Hat, Keeper of the Seeds, is on a 225-episode streak.
Ooh.
And of course, Sir Casey the Shield Knight is on a 639-episode streak.
Sir Casey the Shield Knight.
Wow. What did you say? 639?
639.
The sacred numbers.
Is it?
They all divide by 3.
Yes, the
collapse.
Nikola Tesla. Tesla. If you understand the importance of 3, 6, and 9, you can unravel the mysteries of the universe.
The road and coil. Yeah.
Like that. Thank you, Sir Casey. And other than that is our list of financial producers. A little slow week this week, but hey, that's how it is. Beginning of the month, of course. People got to pay bills, rent, car payments. We get it. But we do pray. We do earnestly pray. And I pray all the producers also pray this, that all of our producers, all of our listeners, that God blesses you mightily in all the ways that he can. Doesn't have to be financial, but we do pray that everybody is blessed this month in all the special ways. And, if the Lord calls you, if the Holy Spirit moves, think about producing the show by going to canarycry.support.
Do it.
And real quick, we do have a piece of art.
Yeah, we do. I was going to say, we have a piece of art that I'd love to share because it is from our good old friend, Sir Dove.
Sir Dove.
I'm trying to pull up the note from Sir Dove here. It says, peace. Oh, it's been a while, man. Peace. For today's artwork, I wanted to send in a possible shirt design for the Canary Cry lifestyle brand.
Yes.
The design features friend of the show, Alex Karp.
Yeah.
Wearing a lightweight shirt in his company's signature task jacket blue, sure to turn heads and facial recognition cameras on the avenue this summer. Hope you guys like it. Keep doing what you do, and I'll keep praying for yins. Man, it's been a long time since reading.
Been a long time. Sir Darren, not Sir Darren, Sir Dove sent in this beautiful t-shirt design, which is a great time to remind everybody who's on the Canary Cry T-shirt Council. The survey for Q2 is in your inbox. Go make sure to vote on the Q2 t-shirt. It is there. You don't want to miss out on the voting. Go vote. Nice reminder. And yes, Sir Dove, I'm so grateful Sir Dove came in. He came in just the day after we started that survey. So this will be one of the options coming up in the next quarter's T-shirt council. And I will say this before we describe the art. I would say more, one of, if not the, he is certainly one of, on par with maybe one of the producers most responsible for the Canary Cry lifestyle brand in art form. He has made hundreds of pieces of art for us over the years. And whenever we need something, I always go digging through the Sir Dove archive of art he's made when I'm putting together the T-shirts. So yes, if anybody is going to be on the list of people who really get the Canary Cry lifestyle brand, it's going to be Sir Dove. So thank you for Sir Dove. And here we've got a great illustration of Alex Karp, the total weirdo CEO of Palantir, who is busy making sure that everybody understands that Palantir is not a big tech dystopian surveillance company, but that it is indeed a lifestyle brand. Go mobilize the ontology at the Palantir merch store. Don't miss the exclusive drops. And so we've got him well depicted here, but also as a fish person, of course, because he's Alex Karp. He's got scales. He's green. He's got scales on his neck. He's got fins coming out, looking so dominating. And underneath him, just one word on brand for Palantir: dominate. And the O in dominate is has a lizard eye in it, of course, because Palantir, a reference to the all-seeing crystal ball eye in Lord of the Rings. So you've got the reference there. And the O also has the little book shape underneath the O. It is the Palantir logo, but it is fair use because he changed it enough. He put a lizard eye in the O that hopefully Alex Karp and Palantir don't feel the need to make some sort of copyright infringement claim when we put this on his shirt.
I hope not. I don't think so. We're not selling the shirts, so
no, we're not.
Don't matter.
Great. That's the thing. Go to canarycryt-shirt-council.com, folks. Sign up, support the show willingly, value for value, and then we will send you free T-shirts every quarter. That's how the deal goes. Okay.
By the way, just real quick, this whole lifestyle thing, I'm noticing it everywhere now. It's like the red car effect.
I am too. I'm seeing it everywhere now.
Inc.com had this headline, quote, "Not built to be a podcast business. Inside Dear Media's plan to create a lifestyle empire."
Way, bro. No way. Are we good or what?
From sold-out live shows to creator-led events, Dear Media is making the case that the most valuable thing a podcast can build is community. So yeah, there you go.
No way, bro. Where have you been, Dear Media? Come on. Can we ever not be absolutely floored by how far ahead God has had us every step of the way?
I don't know. I think he does that to us to continue to
it's our thorn in our side. I don't know if I said it on this show or if I said it sometime else. You know, again, I was reading Corinthians. I was reading about Paul and the thorn in his side. It was the same day I was reading about Paul and the value for value model. And I read about his thorn in his side. And I'm thinking, God, what is the thorn in our side? What is the thorn in my side? And remember, the thorn in Paul's side was specifically there to humble him. This is what he says. This is what it was. We don't know what the thorn in the side was. There's lots of theories. Lots of people wonder. But the Bible, you know, his letter is not clear about what the thorn in his side is. But for us, the thorn in our side, the thing that keeps us humble continually, Gons, is that we are right about everything, but too early. And we do not get to benefit from it in the way that everybody. I know the irony there, that the thorn in our side to keep us humble would be our inhumility about being right about everything. You know, this is very interesting. God works in mysterious ways.
Yeah. Well, it's okay. You know, it's part of having a show like this and having the freedom to say whatever and to analyze whatever and preach
we don't
the
have to
gospel.
be phonies like Dear Media. And to create a life.
Holden Caulfield would love us because we're not phonies.
Thank you very
Okay.
much.
Yeah, thank you, Sir Dove, for the
all
art.
of our
It's great to see you. Yep, all of our producers, and thank you, Sir Dove, for the art. Okay, anything else before we jump back in? I see you have some notes here. Are you going to touch on that stuff?
Do I have
or
notes? Yes, I will mention. I did see an email from Noman Prunte. He said he sent the speak pipe. Apologies, Noman Prunte.
Oh, that's right. We forgot
didn't
the
see it
speak pipe.
beforehand. But if it's okay, we got to move that to Monday because it takes a second to do it. So we'll make sure to get that.
Actually, no, I thought we did play Noman Prunte's.
Yeah, he sent another one. I think that's what he's
really?
saying. Is that he sent another one? Yeah, we played his one last time. I'm assuming he sent another one. I thought I saw it. But anyways, we got to do that Monday.
Okay,
because we got to keep moving here. We got our time.
Yep.
I do want to give a shout out again to the Fellowship of the Ding, the Canary Cry text message alert system. Text the word Canary to 877-740-3226. Again, it's not a text alert system. It's a lifestyle. Okay. It's the Fellowship of the Ding. Go join. We got another to piggyback on our theme from last episode from Miguel. 847 texted and said, "Are you guys still supporting Orange Man? I have not listened to your show since sometime last year. I am not a Democrat, but I do support compassion and morality. In ways, I guess I will try you guys when this regime is done." Now, maybe this is still Miguel, okay? It's possible that
Miguel on his alt account.
I have a really hard time thinking that somebody would have. I mean, maybe this is just a movement. God is moving on people's hearts, right? That left the show when they were under the impression that we are big Trump heads. So maybe that's true. It's mind blowing to me that we got another message like this. The next episode, are you guys still supporting Orange Man? I don't know if this person is listening. I like to think that if somebody takes the time and energy to send this message, that they would tune in and listen instead of like, what did they expect?
You're asking too much.
Like,
you're asking too much of a lot of people.
Trump. Don't listen to us. Like
you're asking too much.
This person is listening. Maybe not, though. I might be giving too much credit to just everybody. But if this person is listening, thank you for your question. Please go listen to last episode. This would be a great reason to give us one more try. Listen to last episode. We talk about exactly your question. Thank you very much, 847. And please, if somebody is listening and thinks this is funny, do not send us these messages as a joke. You're going to drive us completely bonkers.
Keep Basil up all night.
There's always, funny producers, and I appreciate funny producers. But when something like this comes up, they will then send another message to like keep the streak going. Please don't do that. Only earnest questions about if we are, quote, still supporting Orange Man. Okay. All right.
Okay. All right. Well, let's jump in. We got a quick thing to cover over here on CNN. Oh, you got one more thing?
Gons, I'm sorry. I really. Okay.
One more thing.
Help me make this decision. I just got a text message from somebody, 615, who says, "Please read X account for message important to me. Thanks." And I don't know. I'm in my X account messages, and I don't see anything that could be this person. Are you logged into the CCR? Can you check the messages?
CCRX? I'm not logged into CCR.
I don't know. They didn't tell me which one they sent it to. I'm not logged into CCR, so I don't know if I could even do it. But this person says it's important to them. And if it's important, let me see if I can log in. If it's, I don't know if
I'm trying to log in here.
You are. Oh, we're both trying to log in, so we might mess something up.
I'm not seeing anything.
Did you get
the last message we got on the CCR account was 67 weeks ago, so I don't think it's there.
Okay, so is it yours? Did he send it to you?
I don't know. I didn't see anything in mine either. My chat.
Okay, yeah, I'm not seeing anything either. I don't.
Oh my gosh, I'm just seeing some news from the New York Post, and it's very. Yeah, I'm getting distracted.
No, don't get distracted. Yeah. Enter passcode. I don't know what passcode is. Okay, but you saw the CCR account. There wasn't anything in there.
Yeah, there's nothing in there. Yeah.
Okay. I don't. The last thing I have on mine is Sir Darren, and I don't think this is Sir Darren texting. He says it's on both of your accounts. Okay, this person, whoever you are, did you send it as as a message, as a DM, or did he tag us in something? Okay, this might be it. This might be MSDS, who says, just a reminder, I have not been getting email for Babysitters Club Council to vote on t-shirts, but I get email notification when show comes on. Please reach out to me. Thank you. Okay, just correction. It's not Babysitters Club Council. It's T-shirt Club Council. And send me an email. Let me know. I've heard this before. Sometimes the email stuff puts it in your spam folder or just it doesn't get through. Send me an email, MSDS, to remind me to check it. I can't check it now. All right, let's go, Guns.
Okay, we're good.
Thank you, MSDS, though, for taking that to
All right, here we go.
Most modeling is kind of acting like a
beast,
but making it fashion.
Beast.
But then make it fashion.
Okay, so this is CNN style. Forget logos. Young people in China want spiritual luxury. So I guess this is also Chinese news. And of course, they're talking about...
When you say CNN style, just for the listeners who are not looking, just if you're just listening to the podcast, he means the style section of CNN. So CNN specifically has their own beast fashion section of the website.
Right.
So this is CNN jumping on our beast fashion fame here. Forget logos. Young people in China want spiritual luxury. This sounds like something we would make up, Gon. Spiritual luxury. Canary Cry. It's not a podcast. It's a lifestyle brand. Experience the spiritual luxury of Canary Cry. I'm stealing that, putting it in our brand book here.
Mm-hmm. Our I forget what they were called. We used to, when I was in a band, we used to have a little. No. We used to have like a little. It was like a little folder you're supposed to put all your stuff in. It's like a little PR thing. Anyway, forget logos. So logos, it's it's like brand logos, but one could say that it's kind of a covert way to say forget God. It's forget logos.
Incredible spot, Gons.
Double entendre.
Logos, the Greek word that refers to the underlying force of reality, the causeless cause, the original cause that creates everything. Of course, Jesus is the logos. Yeah, very deep, very good spot.
But also pay attention to the hypocrisy in this article because it's glaring if you're a believer. Zuri Yang has been obsessed with shopping since junior high. Quote, clothes, shoes, and accessories, and they always had to be branded, said the 22-year-old student. Quote, it started with Nike and Adidas, then moved on to Gucci and Balenciaga. Great, baby stuff. But since starting college in 2022, his retail therapy has been less about big brands and more about purchases with, quote, emotional value, like small accessories, plush toys, fragrances, and travel, said Yang, who lives in Nanjing, Eastern China. Quote, I like ritual, novelty, and things that have a unique identity, end quote. So much for the logomania that for years defined China's Gen Z and millennial shoppers. Yet, against the backdrop of job insecurity and sluggish post-COVID economic recovery, the country's new luxury shoppers are nonetheless self-soothing in a familiar way through consumption.
Real quick, can I say this again? Mm-hmm. Quote, I like ritual.
Yes.
Novelty and things that have a unique identity. So they're talking about novel things that have an identity, but interacting with them as ritual.
Yes.
That's heavy duty.
Yeah.
By the way, I just want to mention, I am recalling that I said this on May 22nd. I didn't say it on the show. I was having a conversation with someone. I have the records.
Okay.
On May 22nd this year, I literally told somebody it's about logos, not logos.
Yeah, they're in your DMs. They're in your phone.
Trademark, copywriting that right here. This is the proof. Nobody can take that. I will take you to court.
What is this? Candace Owens sharing
Yeah.
Charlie Kirk text messages.
Yeah.
Like, I got the proof.
Exactly. I got the proof.
I got the proof.
receipts.
Yeah. Okay, so they're talking about consumption. This is great news for Western corporatism. Young city dwellers are spending more on quote unquote lucky accessories, crystals, and Zen inspired fashion and fragrances in an apparent bid for emotional release, however temporary. They are also forking out on ostensibly spiritual experiences. Weekends at Sichuan's Buddhist site Mount Amay, restorative wellness retreats, and frequent visits to the many temples that dot the country. Now, this entire article, I believe, is a native ad for one of these retreats. We'll get there. Just a heads up, okay? This is not like a CNN analyzing some, cultural phenomenon of spiritual experiences and spiritual symbols and stuff. It's a placement ad.
Interesting, though, they're reporting on sort of we of course have talked about how the youth here in America are finding themselves, re-enchanted. The Chinese kids are also experiencing this re-enchantment.
Yes. I forgot to mention that. Yeah, that is a big part of this.
Yeah,
This is
finding
the
it in luxury, either goods or experiences, but in commerce.
but not just experiences, but spiritual experiences, very specific.
Yeah,
The economy of Zhuangzhu, I don't think that's how you say it, Zhuangzhu, or spiritual mysticism, has boomed in recent years with a range of price points, and it's changing the face of retail. On popular Chinese social media app Zhanghangshu, the hashtag Zhuangjue has been viewed over 5 billion times to date. So what are people buying, and what does it say about today's China? Now, this, again, also kind of a early reflection of the mark of the beast in my estimation here. Lucky luxuries. The more affordable end of the market, demand for items like feng shui-friendly, quote, energy-enhancing jewelry has surged. E-commerce data cited by the Chinese language Singaporean newspaper Lianhe Zhaobao showed that year-on sales of crystal bracelets jumped by 320% in China in 2024, accounting for more than a third of the country's estimate 3 billion yuan. That's about $444 million online crystal market. It's a huge market. That's crazy, man. And while China's personal luxury market is contracted by as much as 5% in 2025, so the whole luxury market, according to consulting firm Bain & Company, certain high-value items are increasingly popular in netizen lore. Okay. Across Chinese social media platforms, there's a whole luxury spiritual codex at 34,100 yuan. That's about 5,000 US dollars. A Cartier Justin Cloud nail bracelet in 18 karat white gold purportedly protects you from misfortune and keeps bad people away. I don't know, $5,000 bracelet. That might attract bad people, to be honest with you, if they see that on you, But anyway,
it's interesting. I had a friend who just inspired me to get a pair of shoes. It's a leather, like Turkish slipper shoe, right? And he said, no, you got to buy them from Etsy, right? You got to get them handmade. I go, okay, I'll try it out, because I'm trying to expand my horizons and not just wear Crocs. But I can't find a shoe that I like more than Crocs. And this friend is like, here, I'll help you. Try this. It's a Turkish leather shoe. You have to get it handmade. It's a little expensive, but it's your non-Croc shoe. And I go, okay. And it just arrived yesterday. And in it was a little card. And the little card said, thank you for buying this. We're a small company. My dad makes the shoes. We've included this charm. And the charm was an evil eye, right? The blue sort of Greek thing where it's a blue dot with like an eyeball on it. And it's supposed to scare away bad spirits or whatever. And so this little card implied that they had included a keychain with an evil eye on it. And I go, okay, I don't really want this. But again, it's this like spiritual commodity, this
branding,
trinket, right? The spiritual trinket type of thing that came with my shoes. And so I go digging around for the thing in the box and I don't find it. But what I do find is a little glass vial with just some beads in it. So just a little keychain with some beads in it. I don't know what it is or if it's anything else, but it's not the evil eye they said was gonna be in there. So I think like they used to send evil eyes and they had printed up all these cards to explain it, but they like ran out of evil eyes and just gave me like a jar of little beads or something. None of the beads inside are evil eyes. I did check. But anyways, it's like part of the commercial experience is this like little spiritual technology, little trinket. Hey, thank you for buying from us. We want to give you this amulet to spiritually protect you or whatever.
Right.
You know?
Yeah. No,
But
I think
the evil eye. But anyway, I don't know what this jar is. It might be something else. I'll look into it.
yeah, spy rocks.
And you know, this was albeit not cheap, although not crazy expensive. Don't think I'm like buying luxury shoes or anything, but you know, to get handmade leather sort of Turkish slippers kind of reflects a little bit of what we're reading here of like, you know, something that has a little bit more specialness to it than, funny enough, my preferred shoe, which is a factory stamped rubber injected,
which is its own psyop, by the way, made for the
which is its own psyop, right?
Idiocracy movie.
Layers and layers of irony and truth here. But yes, while I choose to prefer the ironic, horrible Croc shoe, which is made in a sterile, robotic environment, you know, factory steaming liquid goo into a mold to make a shoe, I finally go, okay, I'll get a regular shoe. My friend says, get these. I think you'll like them. I get them handmade Turkish. Ooh, we included this little charm for you. You know, the juxtaposition is just too powerful to comprehend.
So earlier,
I'm sorry. Sir Darren says, bro, Crocs are very occult, in my opinion. LOL. That's funny. I'll do it. Yeah. We'll dive in.
Yeah, do the deep dive. They made the shoe as a joke for the movie Idiocracy, and then it became a phenomenon. So, okay. So if you noticed earlier in the article, they were even the title, they were like, hey, they're not into these big brands anymore. They're going for this other. But then they're like 2 paragraphs down. They're like, oh yeah, they're spending $5,000 on a Cartier bracelet. And then it has here 18 karat rose gold diamond Tiffany & Co. T-bangle for $7,000, which is thought to ward off lousy bosses and open new job opportunities. So maybe the big brands are not like the you know, they're not seeking the label per se, but they're still, you know, I guess the Cartier and Tiffany & Co. are filling the gap. They're seeing the demand and they're fulfilling it there. So,
well, and that's the luxury thing, right? That's they're realizing that the logo of Tiffany, like you because in the past you would buy a luxury good like this, not just because, or maybe not at all, because the product is actually better, but because of the sigil that it carries. The
right. So
that
yes. So the Tiffany & Co. is for job opportunities. This next one they talk about is to bring good family fortune, and an orb necklace is thought to bring you a benefit to your career. And it says in a parenthetical here, with the country's youth unemployment hovering over 16%, maybe Gen Z feels it needs all the help it can get. So can you imagine these young Chinese citizens,
this desperation?
Yeah, for wanting to, because the economy's suffering post-COVID, whatever it is, and all they got is they work their tail off, but to get some good fortune or whatever, they're dropping $5,000 to $7,000 on a sigil, like a little amulet that can hopefully bring them luck and stuff. Man, it's just crazy. Meanwhile, Van Cleef and Arpel's popular Alhambra 4-leaf clover collection, which starts at over 14,100 yuan or about $2,000 for a simple pendant necklace, has long served dual purpose in China as both a status symbol and a lucky charm. The different inlay materials, such as mother of pearl, malachite, and onyx, interesting, have been given mystical meaning by social media users. Parentheses, helping with the wearer's career, love life, or financial friendships or finances. For example, while the thrill of splurging on a piece of fine luxury jewelry might feel like a spiritual experience, it is hardly a route to long-lasting inner peace. But the idea of luxury accessories serving as emotional armor amid economic uncertainty, clearly resonates with consumers and marketeers capitalizing on the phenomenon. Good job, CNN Style, noticing and recognizing the product market fit there. And it continues here. It's got some of these pictures. Spiritually inspired fashion trends have grown online too. The hashtag that translates to Zen style has reached over 270 million views on Zhao Hongshu, with posts referencing everything from a flowy silhouette of high-end Chinese fashion designer Uma Wang to cheap robe-like outfits sold on Taobao and other e-commerce sites. Spiritual fast fashion might be an oxymoron, but consumers' philosophical interrogation may not always run that deep. So it's kind of, if you see what they're saying here, it's the mark of the beast concept, where it's like it's offered to the rich, to the poor. There's something for everybody. Kind of.
Yeah, that's an interesting angle to it. I mentioned to you before the show, I think I'll mention it here. I bought an old book recently for a couple bucks in a rummage sale. And it's an old book, and it's one of these books where you open the cover. It's a hardcover, and on the inside, you'll see this with really old books. It'll have like an etching, like a 2-page full spread old style piece of art, and it's very like Greek, very apotheosis of George Washington. It's very sort of archetypal. It's got all these figures, these animals, these things. Now, this book was specifically regarding like America settling the West, right? Manifest Destiny, which was the spiritualization of expanding the country west. And so it has people and animals and has a train, like a big railroad train, and it's done in this sort of mythical Greek style. And at the bottom of it, there's a little scroll, like you'll see on a lot of this kind of art. And on the scroll was one word, and the word was commerce. And you sit there and you stare at this, and you're like, oh, wow, this is like a mythical, almost religious depiction of America expanding west, manifest destiny. This is bigger than just people settling the frontier. This is like a big spiritual battle, et cetera, et cetera. But it's all done in the name of commerce, like expanding the west, settling the frontier, making the railroad. The whole thing, our entire American history, is done sort of in the name or under the principality of commerce, was kind of the impression that I got.
Yeah.
And it made me think like, oh, of course, we're talking about the age of reenchantment. We have a great episode with Carl Teichrob coming out. But you look at the history of the last 100 years and or more, of course, but we see the movement of Western Christianity being the basis of the West, being sort of deconstructed or burned down to make way for Enlightenment values, scientism, materialism, things like this. And then, of course, now we are experiencing the reenchantment that we're seeing here. But yeah, it was almost like that period in American history, was ruled by the principality and power of commerce, because it's really America as the colonies was a commercial endeavor. The plantations, the this, the that, even from slavery, etc. Commerce has really been the driving force for the country since the beginning. There have been many forces, and of course, God has his sovereign hand on it as well. But if you think in terms of history and principalities and power, really commerce or mammon can be seen as this like geographical principality over America. And that's what was kind of being described in this piece of artwork. And so it's interesting in this transitional phase in history we're watching right now, this reenchantment, this return to spiritual reality that people are finding themselves drawn to, that spiritual luxury goods that this article is talking about is sort of taking advantage of. It's almost like Mammon being like, oh, you're turning back to the supernatural, huh? Oh, you want to get into spiritual reality, don't you? Well, you have to pay $7,000 for it then, young Chinese person. It's very interesting to see it all in that context.
Yeah. This is also very insightful here. Young people are no longer just paying for a product, but, quote, paying for a form of self-definition and an emotional container, said Linda Yu, a general manager at marketing agency Red Ant Asia, which is headquartered in Shanghai. Quote, some brands have recently shifted spiritual consumption from the margins to the mainstream.
Wow.
That is just, spot on there. Mainstream consumer brands like Lululemon and the coffee chain M Stand have launched spiritually themed marketing campaigns in China in recent years. Bubble tea brand Molly Tea's collaboration with 1,700-year-old temple in Hangzhou featured co-branded cup sleeves, fridge magnets, and fragrance diffusers. Burger King partnered with the Taoist site on Mount Longu for Lunar New Year with a, quote, God of Wealth figurine available for an extra 38 yuan. That's $5.62 with fast food meal deals. Burger King.
Of course.
I'm thinking, how is Burger King still around? Nobody goes. I don't know anybody who eats a burger. I'm sorry. If you're like a Burger King regular, I'm sorry if I offend you.
I have a whole rant on Burger King that I can inflict on people, but yes.
Okay. But I often wonder.
A lot of people are asking that same question. I will spare everybody my answer to that now. But oh my gosh, look at that. The age of reenchantment. We really do see these like principalities and powers of commerce, of mammon, of corporatism, of all these sorts of things, watching the direction of people get drawn back into the unseen realities, and then immediately knowing how to profit from it.
The merchants of the earth, knowing, using their sorcery to deceive the whole world, right? Let's see. Let me continue on here. Let's see. Let me skip some things here. Quote, Songmont doesn't sell luck per se. They talk about Songmont, who is another subtler luxury brand. It's a handbag. It sells peace of mind that comes from slowing down, said Yu, who believed the brand's customers, quote, aren't buying a logo, they're buying into a spiritual identity.
Oh my God.
This article is just one hit after another. I'm telling you, this article was driving me. My mind was blown.
This is
while I was
good.
reviewing this before the show. She added, quote, its designs draw inspiration from the curved eaves of ancient Shanghai architecture or the lines of the Yellow River floodplain, and their marketing is deliberately slow. China is officially an atheist state where fewer than 10% of people formally identify with a religion, according to a Pew Research Center report. But when the definition of religion was widened to include questions on, quote, spirituality, customs, and superstitions, the role of religion in people's lives grew significantly, the think tank said. For example, a 2018 survey cited in Pew's report found that 47% of Chinese adults believe in feng shui, where the positioning of objects or buildings in relation to one another can bring happiness or good fortune. We know this. This is a big part of like interior design and stuff. Feng shui is like almost required knowledge, base knowledge, if you're going to be an interior designer. Praying at temples for wealth and good fortune is a common practice, even for those who aren't especially religious. And ascribing talismanic properties to jewelry is a tradition dating back thousands of years. So this is like, again, it's bringing it back to how it was before commercialism, materialism, and consumerism really took over without the spirit. There's like a pause of the spirit, the spiritual marketing, let's call it that. Was on pause for about a century and a half, but it's coming back with a fury.
Interesting that topic about talismans and imbuing sort of craft, the art of crafting something like jewelry or building something with sort of spiritual power is also very Freemasonic, right?
Oh yeah, yeah.
Where architecture and building, laying bricks, etc., is sort of imbued as part of the spiritual practice.
Well, I mean, it's got its biblical roots too, because when the temple was being built, God was very explicit about how to build the temple and things of that nature. So there is a sort of divine, pure, heavenly reality to it. But of course, when it comes to principalities and powers that reject God, who are trying to lead us astray, they may use those same tactics because they know that it's part of our fabric, it's part of our design, but use it to lead us astray. So it makes a lot of sense that the Freemasons and all these different alternative worldviews are similar in nature, but different in destination, I guess. This may in part.
Real quick, I want to give a shout out. I'm looking for the specifics. I might not be able to find it in time. I don't want to hold up the show. But I did an episode of Ravel, for those who remember Ravel, another side project podcaster of mine. It was episode 30, I think it is. Let me share this page, not to get caught up in it. Boop, boop, boop. If you can put my thing on screen there, Gons. Episode 30 of Ravel was a series we are doing called Artist On, and it was Artist On creating spaces with Margaret Daniel, who is the daughter of a Canarian who is a interior designer, since you mentioned that. And we talk about interior design and stuff from the Christian perspective. It's been a long time. I want to listen to this again. But if anybody, I'm just remembering this, I'm going to go re-listen to this. So if anybody's interested, you need another podcast to listen to, look for Ravel. There are 2 Ravels. They stole my name, but search Ravel Basil Rosewater. You'll find the right one. Episode 30, Artist On Creating Spaces with Margaret Daniel. And shout out to Margaret and her family if you're listening now.
I remember you talking about that episode. So, yeah,
it's a cool episode.
Let's see. China, we just read that. Where did I lose it? This may in part explains why obviously commercial brands collaborate, brand collaborations like fast food chains working with temples or jewelers and fashion labels capitalizing on spiritualism haven't sparked the kind of backlash they might expect to in the West. Chinese state media, which typically reflects Communist Party-held attitudes or positions on issues, has expressed skepticism towards the trend, often warning consumers on the risk of being scammed. Quote, turning to Zhuangzhui can provide some stress relief. Becoming obsessed with or even superstitious about it can lead people astray. A Marxist scholar is quoted as saying in a recent article published by China Youth Daily. Thank you, CNN, for bringing balanced views from the Marxist view of these Chinese outlets, which I think is hilarious. Temple retreats, they start talking about some of the temple retreats, the same kind of thing. They're looking for these experiences and how it's grown. This whole thing has grown in the last few years to, it looks like here, a $14.8 billion industry. Quote, we see so much online content, both from the temple's accounts and influencer content on Jiang Hengshu, he said. Influencers and jewelry designer Shizi Lin, 25, is a case in point. She regularly visits temples for inspiration and content, of course, and now brings groups of followers to different religious sites around China. So, this is kind of the streamer thing happening out here too, where they go to different sports events or different cultural events, and people can kind of vicariously be there through some of these influencer types, and that's becoming more of a thing. According to She,
brand, I mean, that's the lifestyle brand.
That's the lifestyle brand, right?
Branding is, I'm at this place, come with me or watch me do it.
Right. According to She, there are 2 main types of young people making temple tourism so popular today. Remember the mark of the beast earlier. Those who have already achieved, quote, a certain level of material comfort and seek to find release in the spiritual realm. That's one group of people. And those looking to cope with the uncertainty of reality, alleviate anxiety, manage job pressures, salary concerns, romantic and marital pressures, and the many choices and uncertainties of the future. In other words, both the haves and the have-nots are the target audience for these temple experiences.
Yeah.
Given the many young people and people's social circles nowadays revolve around topics like astrology, MBTI, which is Myers-Briggs for fortune telling, it's almost as if these practices serve as social tools now. And she, who is from Guangdong province, or said she, okay, similar motives may be powering the fast-growing market for divination, astrology, and tarot reading apps.
Yeah, of
The
course.
10-cent-backed CC Astrology app has been downloaded around 24 million times, according to data shared with CNN market intelligence firm Sensor Tower. Both are also paying for online astrologers to soothe feelings of uncertainty and hopelessness, with some even sending small payments, some as little as a yuan or two, via their smartphones for, quote, digital prayers during temple live streams.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, they're even tipping for, like, I don't know, like even their tips it's like a tithe, but like, I don't know, it's like a financial, like a digital token being sent for like a little, but not a tithe. You know, it's like it's like buying a prayer. It's just very strange, very weird. Like the West.
It fits in with recent Flippy updates where there was, in parts of Asia, they were getting robots and AI to be shamans and Buddhist priests.
Right.
You could visit them for, I don't know, whatever you get from a Buddhist or shaman priest or something. This interesting commoditization and technological thing.
And this actually, they talk about the, okay, like the West, luxury spending continues to shift from material goods to emotional and sensory experiences. This is the setup for the VR headsets, for the XR technology, you know, the goggles, the glasses, all that kind of stuff. You know, it didn't really catch on in the last 10 years, but I think if you get influencers to wear some of these, whatever glasses or VR, not VR necessarily, but more so, VR for the people at home, and then more like AR, augmented reality, for the people that are actually there, like boots on the ground, so that they can broadcast what they're seeing, and then the people at home can kind of sit there and experience it from their point of view. That emotional sensory experience is, the setup is right there. They're really moving us towards that to, I think, to make that technology more common for people, because it didn't really catch on before just on its own, on its own merits. You need a culture longing for such experiences, but maybe not the capabilities to travel or whatever. So
which kind of flows from our talk about VR and the empathy box and do androids dream of electric sheep, but also ties in with the next article. I did want to mention, I sent you a little thing there. I'm kind of in my final moments here.
I know. That's why I was trying to get through it.
Maybe we'll save the next one, but let's see. Let's keep moving.
Okay. So here's kind of why I think this was a native ad. It says here, Energy Alchemy, and you can click on this link and it goes straight to the Energy Alchemy website. A luxury 5-day retreat in Bali, priced at 42,000 yuan, that's $6,200, is aimed at wealthy millennial Chinese women and includes workshops on breathwork and Reiki, a Japanese spiritual healing practice. Its founder, Wiley Chen Walter, who launched the business after 15 years in fintech, 15 years in fintech and then launching this, says that, quote, many
Silicon
modern
Valley stuff, it's the re-enchantment and even Reiki there. An interesting reference to the Times Magazine article talking about the re-enchantment, the age of re-enchantment that we're moving, or are we sliding back into the medieval age?
Yeah.
Even the writer of that article says, "Oh, I did Reiki when I was pregnant."
Yeah,
so,
that's right. That's the thing. So this founder says many modern Chinese women are beginning to ask deeper questions around identity, emotional inheritance, interesting, burnout, and self-worth. Questions that previous generations were rarely allowed to openly ask. So there you go. And, I think there's one last, this is the very last sentence here. Paragraph. The spiritual economy is not necessarily about outright faith, but rather ritual,
Mm.
emotional, and sense of agency. Quote, after all, we all spend money to buy happiness, said Yang, the college student. Quote, we exchange the fruits of our labor for emotional fulfillment.
And
And
that's it right there. The
Yeah.
spiritual economy, which
Yeah.
is this sort of mammon, this authority of mammon seeing the reenchantment, jumping in to assert itself to sort of guide it. The spiritual economy is not necessarily about outright faith, but rather ritual. So don't bother with real faith. Don't bother with the real gospel or something. Again, back to Christian humanism. But it's about the aesthetic, the ritual, the act of what the faith, to act like the faithful without actually having the faith, right? It's
Right.
amazing sort of
So
corruption of it.
So I think I'll do this very quickly, Basil, because I think I can land it here in a minute or so.
Mhm.
There was another article to kind of tie in with all of this, and it's from ArtNet, and this is the headline: "This giant spider at Frieze, London, will transport you to a digital world." And it's this humongous spider that people are like sitting on, like each arm, and they're kind of feeling
It's like a
around.
big art piece for
It's a big art piece.
it's like a
But
museum art piece, robot spider that people can sit on each of the legs, and it looks like they are holding video game controllers and staring into the center of the spider.
yes, well, the controller is somewhere amongst the spider. Like they don't really say where it is, but the idea, this is made by an artist named Theo Triantafilitis. I think that's how you say his name. And this is called the Feral Metaverse, the spider. And he basically he made this piece as a way to reverse the whole metaverse idea. So he's against the metaverse, which is very interesting. He's anti-metaverse, okay? But so he, as an art piece, he created this giant spider as kind of this absurd piece of technology, and allowed people to kind of feel around the spider so that they can enter this virtual metaverse game that's coming out. It's on Steam. It's called Feral Metaverse, and if you look at it, it's just an open world game where you get dropped into this desert like place and you find other people, and the only way to make it is if you work with each other. There's really no like purpose to the game other than to survive. It's just a survive through kindness type of game.
Which is very
But
popular. It's very like Minecraft. It's a popular
yeah,
style of game with the young folk.
so they get dropped into this world naked and without a voice. So that it's like naked and afraid, but you can't talk kind of
Like
situation.
Adam
It's
in the
virtual.
garden,
Like
right?
Adam in the garden, or maybe Adam and Eve kicked out of the garden.
Or
Naked.
or a perverse retelling of Adam in the garden.
Yes, yeah.
Creation of man naked alone and with nothing, which is the lie, because we were not dropped in the middle of nothing with
Right.
nothing
Right.
alone. We were originally created in full union with everything we needed.
But to access this realm, one way you can do it is to straddle this ginormous spider, which speaks to the absurdism, and the kind of Gen Z absurdism that we've been seeing.
Yeah.
But also it's kind of this nihilist thing, but also it's AI slop actually informing or inspiring the modern artist now. Like this type of, because remember, if we think
Instead of
about
vice versa, instead of AI training on the modern artist, the artist is inspired by the
the
AI.
digital realm is inspiring modern art in the real world, and he explicitly says that. He says, well, I'm reversing the tide. We're not going into the metaverse. Like, what would it be like if the metaverse emerged into our realm, which ironically enough, he's using to onboard people to his video game. So it's kind of like the psyop within a psyop, to make it seem like he's actually doing something as anti-establishment, anti-metaverse message, while onboarding everyone into his own metaverse. I think we'll probably see a lot more of this type of absurd art, because the Gen Z will relate to it, they like the absurdism of it.
That's the thing. The absurdism, it's been described not just on the show, but in the mainstream. The Gen Z violence, these acts of violence we see by Gen Z, is related to absurdism, nihilism, this hyper reality that has them disconnected. The attempt of Gen Z to escape the hyper reality is what brings them to the traditional Christian, forms of Christianity, or just Christ in general. And yeah, the reversal of the AI artist relationship is really crazy. Yeah, this is pretty gnarly, dude. I don't know, man. I would be stoked if I was a listener of this show. I would be very excited. I would listen to this show and be like, "Oh my gosh, this is it."
Yeah, these guys are insane.
I get it. I have a twisted perspective. I kind of sometimes wish that I was just a listener and I could be like, "Yes, let's go."
If you think about like IShowSpeed, which is a very popular streamer right now, and he goes to the spider, right? So now you have, and a whole bunch of millions of people are watching him visit the spider thing. And then, so they see him kind of straddle the spider or whatever. So they're vicariously living through that. But then they can hop into feral Metaverse and actually meet him or interact with him some way in the virtual space. You can see how it's sort of closing the loop.
Merging,
You're like merging the both the vicariously far away with the very close, and creating that perception that you're there with them. Oh, I met IShowSpeed. Oh, where'd you meet him? Oh, in the feral Metaverse. And people won't know if you're talking about the spider or if you're talking about just the virtual realm in the game or whatever. So,
which is the perfect encapsulation of the digital world as the enemies, the devils, Satan's, Lucifer's counterfeit creation of spirit, of the spiritual realm, right?
Yeah.
The enemy is involved to using the desire of man to build a spiritual realm. We've been convinced by the Enlightenment values, the secularization, that the spiritual realm doesn't exist, but instead we will build a digital realm, a fake counterfeit spiritual realm where invisible things happen. It's nowhere, but it's everywhere at the same time. Things that happen there affect the material world, right? It's this closing the loop, as you say, on the counterfeit spirituality of the digital. And during now the age of re-enchantment, where people are craving the spiritual, they know, they're saying, I'm missing it. There's something inside me that draws me towards God, that draws me towards the invisible realities. And as they're getting drawn towards God and our various ways of understanding and interacting with the spirit, with the spiritual realm, they are finding themselves sort of wandering to counterfeit versions like this to fill that hole inevitably. Yeah, incredible.
Yep.
Wow.
I'm glad we're triggering the Burger King apologists in the chat too. This is fantastic.
There we go.
I love that. I love that there's Burger King apologists in there. This is great. Thank you for that person for
Holden Caulfield would be proud. Man,
he would be proud. Yep.
I would love to be a listener of this show. All right. That's what we got for today, folks. Thank you for being here. Thanks for tuning in live. And of course, thank you for listening on the podcast version. Shout out to the podcast listeners there. Remember, we are value for value. We cannot continue this work without you, your person. I'm talking to you individually, the person listening. I'm speaking to you. Yes, I see you. Think about it. Pray about it. Please produce the show with your time, your talent, your treasure, whatever it is. You might think what you have to offer is nothing or is unworthy, but think of the widow at the temple, okay? What she was able to give, a simple penny, was more worthy than anything that the rich priest.
They didn't have pennies back then, Basil. You're a liar.
Was able to do.
Why are you fake news?
And instead of being drawn, searching, using commerce and as a spiritual ritual to seek some sort of fulfillment through products or experiences or vacations or something like that, we can return it, get away from the counterfeit, return to God's original creation, which is participation in what God is doing on earth with whatever he has given us. If it's your time, your talent, your treasure, whatever it is, support the show. Go to canarycry.support. We cannot do it without you. And I want to thank a couple people who give of their time to make this community happen. You want to do that, Gons?
Timestamp, it's hard work. Timestamp.
That's a yes, and that's a
That's a
thank
yes.
you to Jade Bouncerson for doing the timestamps for episode
Thank you
number
very much,
955.
God bless you, Jade. Thank you,
Yeah.
Jade. I love you, Jade. I do want to give a couple of shout outs. Again, I'm going to try to move these to next episode to fully credit them. But we did have a couple people. Alex W. with a very interesting email address. I'm not going to give it out, but very interesting email address. Alex says, do you supports the show for $19.39? $19.39.
Thank you, Alex W.
I'm going to click into this and see if that's another number with fees here in a moment. But Alex sends a note that says, do you consider coffee to be pharmakia? If not, why? And I would like to address this next time, but I wanted to make sure we don't lose it.
Okay.
That's an interesting topic. That's an interesting question.
good
I love
topic.
that question because we also, I think, unlike a lot of less subtle conversations, recognize that even like Advil is pharmakia, technically, if you're going by a very strict thing. Pharmakia in the Bible, stay away, psychedelics, magic, we know all this. But Advil, what do we do with that? Coffee, I think technically is pharmakia. I mean, it's using the roots of the earth to maybe, I don't know, caffeine, technically a drug. Interesting question, Alex. Another, I guess, and when we have more time, a wonderful thing to add to the nuanced, ongoing, centuries-long conversation about how we as Christians are supposed to understand the Bible, the world around us, and what is for and what is not for us. Thank you, Alex, for producing the show.
Yep.
We also had, where are you? It was Raul S. Raul S.
Raul
There you
S.
are. Raul S. comes in for $32.20. $32.20. Thank you, Raul.
Ooh, 322. I see you. I see you, Raul.
I see you, Raul. You clever little guy.
You
Clever little Raul.
Skull and Bones guy.
Okay, I'm stalling for just a moment to see if I can dig deeper into Alex W's exact amount, and I cannot. It's not letting me do it. But thank you, Alex. Thank you, Raul S. I will try to officially get you on next episode, but if I don't, please know we are grateful to you now. Other than that, we have some producers named Jam. Jam heads up the Telegram channel. Thank you. Adam42 heads up the Discord channel. If you out there, dear listener, listen to this, you find, oh my gosh, I'm not a weirdo. Other people are seeing the world. I want to connect. I got a fellowship. You must. If you're a Telegram person or a Discord person, or you want to become a Telegram user or a Discord user and connect with other Canarians, you can go to canarycry.party. You will see invite links to both of those services now. We got, I think, almost over 500 people in the Discord channel. I don't know about the Telegram channel. Yeah, it could be up to 600 now. I don't really know. Or if you're, some people are sensitive about joining those platforms like Telegram or Discord or something. But we also have canarycry.community. And this is kind of a ragtag, underground, not connected to any big social platform. It's its own little custom platform of ours. Go to canarycry.community and you can connect with other Canarians there. Go check it out. Just go to canarycry.community. I think there's a button for it too at canarycry.party. Of course, thank you to Joe for the feedback. Thank you to Clank for everything you do. Thank you to the Canary Cry tech team. Shout out. And of course, Sir Ike, the one and only, couldn't do any of this without him. So you, dear listener, right now, the person listening to me, not the amorphous, ambiguous crowd, but you, the person hearing my voice, share the show. Share it with your friends. Share it with your family. Doesn't matter. Somebody in your life. You thought of someone during the crazy conversations of today's episode, whether it's Holden Caulfield, whether it's MKUltra, or whether it's spiritual luxury brands, or whatever, even weird VR spider, whatever it was, somebody came into your mind and you thought, oh, that's what they would get that, or that's when I was talking to that person, or whatever, or somebody came into your mind. Share this episode with them. Just press send, copy the link, send it to them. Just do it. Okay. We have to, because the algorithms, they hate us. They hate us. They want us to die. But as human beings like you who can share the show, and we can keep things going around here. So do that. We call it rattling cages. And all you got to do is walk right up to him, grab him by the cage, and then you shake it.
The end of the world occurred pretty much as we had predicted.
I want to shake things up, stir up some controversy, rattle a few cages. Hey, stop that! You'll never silence me. I'm the last angry man, a crusader for the little guy. Leave the bird alone. Never. Rattle a few cages. Rattle a few cages.
The human race will have every opportunity to improve.
And if they don't?
Ask Noah.
That's right. Just ask Noah. Gons, any last words?
Make sure to celebrate National Kitten Day on Friday.
Yes, of course.
That's the 10th, and also Nikola Tesla's birthday. So happy birthday, Nikola Tesla.
Big day,
Yeah,
yes.
probably a good social media day there for some stuff. And then I will see you on Monday, the 13th. There we go.
Yep, sounds good. And I will see you, dear listener, tomorrow, Thursday, for Canary Cry Clubhouse. And one last time, I did it last episode, I'll do it now. I am now imploring you, if you have not listened to Clubhouse, now is your time to listen to it. Go listen to last episode, give it a try, okay? Or if you listened to it once and you didn't like it, go again. It's different. It's better. It's amazing. Okay? Same Canary time, same Canary place tomorrow, Thursday. Okay. Thanks for listening to this episode of Canary Cry News Talk, everybody. Make sure to tune in next time. But until then, think outside the
cage. We will hunt you down and make you pay.
That's on YouTube.
Remember, reality is an illusion. The universe is a hologram. Buy gold. Buy!
I think I was PSYOPS. Love worketh no will to his neighbor. Therefore, love is the fulfilling of the law. And that, knowing the time, now it is high time to awake out of sleep. And I, knowing the time, now it is high time to wake out of sleep. And now is our salvation nearer than when we believe. The night is far spent, the day is at hand. Let us Therefore cast off the works of darkness, and let us put on the armor of light. And knowing the time, and now it is our time to wake out of sleep. And now is our salvation nearer than when we believe. The night is far spent, the day is at hand. The night is far spent, the day is at hand.
Value for value. We take no money from corporations, commies, or cartels.
Canary cry